In the fall of 1978, on a quiet afternoon in Wilmington, North Carolina, a teenager walked slowly toward the gym bulletin board, his heart pounding with each step. This moment would become legendary, though not for the reasons anyone expected. What happened next would not only shape the future of basketball, but redefine what it means to overcome rejection. Where are you watching from today? The Laney High School gymnasium was usually filled with the squeak of sneakers and the rhythmic bounce of basketballs, but today it was silent. Coach Thomas Perkins stood in his office, the weight of his recent decision visible in his furrowed brow. On his desk lay the final roster for the varsity basketball team, a list that notably excluded the name Michael Jordan. Sarah Foster, a student counselor who witnessed that day, would later recall the look on young Michael's face when he saw the posted roster. It wasn't anger or even disappointment that crossed his features. It was something far more powerful: determination. Richard Wells, the varsity team captain, remembered Jordan differently from the other cut players. Most guys who got cut, you'd see them in the hallways looking defeated. But Michael, he had this intensity in his eyes I'd never seen before. The rejection hit particularly hard because Jordan's friend, Marcus Thompson, had made the team. Standing, nearly 6'3", Thompson fit the traditional mold of what Coach Perkins and assistant coach Bradley Quinn were looking for. Jordan, at barely 5'10" at the time, was considered too small for varsity. Jennifer Hayes, who worked in the school office, remembered the conversation between Jordan and his mother that afternoon. His mother told him to use this moment, to let it fuel him. I don't think any of us realized just how seriously he would take that advice. The next morning, before most students had even woken up, security guard Daniel Pierce arrived at school to find Jordan already there, waiting by the gym doors. He asked me if I could let him in early to practice. It became our daily routine after that. What happened in those early morning hours would lay the foundation for the greatest comeback story in sports history. While varsity players like Stephen Baker and Christopher Morris practiced during regular hours, Jordan was there during every spare moment, before and after school. Lauren Anderson, the school janitor, often worked late into the evening. I'd have to practically kick him out of the gym some nights. He'd always ask for just 5 more minutes. It was never just 5 minutes. The junior varsity coach, Robert Hampton, saw something special in those lonely practice sessions. Most kids practice until they get it right. Michael practiced until he couldn't get it wrong. Every morning, every afternoon, every weekend, the sound of a solitary basketball echoing through an empty gym became Jordan's signature. Patricia Wilson, who taught Jordan's English class, noticed a change in him after the cut. There was this quiet intensity about him. He wasn't angry, he was focused. Even his essays started centering around proving people wrong. The varsity team that year, led by players like Kenneth Martinez and William Stone, had a solid season. But it was the junior varsity games that began drawing unexpected attention. Jordan wasn't just playing, he was dominating, consistently scoring over 40 points per game. Coach Andrew Turner of rival East High would later say, "I'd never seen anything like it." Here was this kid who got cut from varsity, playing with such fierce determination that he made junior varsity games look like NBA playoffs. In the school hallways, Jordan remained notably humble, according to his classmate Michelle Gardner. He wasn't talking about revenge or proving anyone wrong. He just kept saying he had work to do. The story could have ended there, another tale of teenage disappointment and resilience. But what happened over the next year would transform not just Jordan, but the very essence of how we view failure and redemption in sports. As the season progressed, Jordan's solitary practice sessions grew longer. The school security guard, James Cooper, started bringing him breakfast on early mornings. Sometimes I'd arrive at 5 a.m. and he'd already be there, drenched in sweat. What nobody knew then was that this rejection wasn't just creating a better basketball player. It was forging the mentality that would one day define the greatest player in history. The cut from varsity wasn't the end of Michael Jordan's story. It was the beginning of his legend. The summer following that fateful cut would become legendary in Wilmington. While other students enjoyed their vacation, Michael Jordan was orchestrating the most dramatic transformation in basketball history. Kevin Davis, who managed the local community center, remembered those months vividly. The kid was there so much, we eventually just gave him his own key. Jordan's daily routine became almost mythical. Dr. Sarah Martinez, the school's physician, noticed his physical transformation during pre-season checkups. He had grown nearly 4 inches and added significant muscle mass. But more than that, there was a different kind of energy about him, like a coiled spring waiting to be released. The varsity team's returning players, including Timothy Grant and Alexander Kennedy, began hearing stories about Jordan's summer workouts. Rachel Thompson, who worked at the gym, described marathon training sessions that would start before sunrise and continue well into the night. He wasn't just practicing basketball, he was reinventing himself. His transformation caught the attention of assistant coach Robert Wilson, who started showing up to watch these solitary training sessions. What impressed me wasn't just the hours he put in, Wilson later recalled. It was how methodical he was. Every movement, every drill had a purpose. He was treating junior varsity like it was the NBA Finals. The impact of the previous year's rejection manifested in unexpected ways. English teacher Patricia Young noted how Jordan's school essays began focusing on themes of perseverance and proving doubters wrong. He wrote about turning rejection into fuel. It wasn't just about basketball anymore. It was about becoming unstoppable. During summer pickup games, Jordan's new intensity began to draw attention. Local basketball legend Marcus Bennett remembered the first time he played against the transformed Jordan. This wasn't the same kid who got cut. This was something else entirely. He played like every second on the court was a matter of life and death. The changes weren't just physical. School counselor Jennifer Clark observed a shift in Jordan's entire demeanor. He developed this laser focus. Whether he was in class or walking the halls, you could see his mind was always working, always planning his next move. Local gym owner Stephen Wright started opening his facility early, specifically for Jordan. He would be there at 5 a.m., working on the same move hundreds of times. I've never seen anything like it. Most kids practice until they're tired. Michael practiced until he was perfect. His junior varsity teammates from the previous year, including David Parker and Jonathan Brady, barely recognized his game when school resumed. Former teammate William Foster recalled, "It was like he had downloaded every basketball skill into his brain and body over the summer. He wasn't just better, he was different." The transformation extended beyond the court. Jordan's academic performance improved dramatically, as noted by his mathematics teacher Michelle Baker. He approached his studies with the same intensity he brought to basketball. It was like he was determined to prove he could dominate in every aspect of life. The first day of varsity tryouts that fall became part of local legend. Coach Anthony Kennedy, who had taken over as head coach, described the scene. When Michael walked into the gym, there was an audible gasp. This wasn't the same player we'd cut. This was someone who had completely reinvented himself. Jordan's first scrimmage against the returning varsity players became the stuff of local legend. Point guard Christopher Morris, who had made varsity the previous year, remembered it clearly. He wasn't just playing, he was making a statement. Every drive, every shot, every defensive play was delivered with a message. This is what you missed out on. The intensity of his comeback affected everyone around him. Team manager Lisa Perez noted how Jordan's work ethic began influencing other players. Suddenly, everyone was showing up early for practice. Nobody wanted to be outworked by the kid who got cut last year. Jordan's transformation had created a new standard of excellence. Assistant coach Michael Henderson observed, he wasn't just trying to make the team this time. He was trying to make everyone forget there was ever a doubt about him belonging. The practice sessions became increasingly competitive. Varsity. Player Thomas Garcia remembered, every drill was like Game 7 of the finals to him. If you weren't matching his intensity, he'd let you know about it. He raised the bar for everyone. School nurse Amanda Wilson noticed the physical toll of Jordan's relentless training. He'd come in with blisters, sprains, exhaustion, but he never used any of it as an excuse to miss practice. His pain tolerance was unlike anything I'd ever seen in a high school athlete. The local community began taking notice. Business owner Richard Young started attending practices just to watch Jordan work. It wasn't just his skill that impressed me, it was his mindset. He approached every practice like someone was trying to take something from him. Jordan's new approach to the game influenced even the coaching staff. Assistant coach Brian Taylor admitted we had to redesign our practice routines because he was pushing beyond what we typically expected from high school players. He made us better coaches. His former junior varsity teammates noticed the change too. Point guard Samuel Wilson recalled, playing against Michael in practice was like trying to stop a force of nature. He took every possession personally, like each one was a chance to prove everyone wrong. The transformation wasn't just physical or technical, it was psychological. School psychologist Dr. Jennifer Howard noted, he had developed this extraordinary ability to turn any slight, real or perceived, into motivation. It was like he had mastered the art of productive anger. Local sports reporter Daniel White started documenting Jordan's practice sessions. What stood out wasn't just the hours he put in, but how he used them. Every minute was purposeful. He wasn't just practicing, he was preparing for something bigger than high school basketball. The impact extended beyond the basketball team. Track coach Robert Pierce observed, other athletes started copying his work ethic. Suddenly, everyone wanted to be the first one in and the last one out. He changed the entire culture of our athletic program. Jordan's dedication began affecting his opponents before they even played. Rival coach Timothy Stone remembered, word spread about how hard he was working. Teams would come into games already intimidated, just based on the stories they'd heard about his preparation. The transformation wasn't limited to basketball skills. Strength coach Matthew Harris noted, he approached physical conditioning like a man possessed. He wasn't just trying to make varsity, he was trying to become unstoppable. The school's janitor, James Sullivan, often found Jordan practicing late into the night. Sometimes I'd have to tell him the same thing 3 or 4 times before he'd finally leave. And even then, you could see in his eyes he was still playing. The game in his mind. His academic advisors, including Patricia Coleman and Sarah Bennett, noticed how his competitive drive carried over into his studies. He started approaching his classes with the same intensity he brought to basketball. It was like he was determined to prove he could excel at everything. The local pickup games at the community center became must-see events. Recreation director Thomas Murphy recalled, people would pack the gym just to watch him play. It wasn't just his skill, it was the intensity he brought to every single possession. Even the school's principal, Dr. Robert Anderson, took notice. What impressed me most wasn't just his athletic development. It was how he had turned rejection into such powerful motivation. He was teaching all of us a lesson about resilience. The transformation affected not just Jordan's game, but his entire approach to life. His history teacher, Michelle Carter, observed, he started viewing every challenge as an opportunity to prove himself. It was like the cut had awakened something in him that couldn't be satisfied with just being good enough. As the new season approached, the anticipation in the school reached fever pitch. Team manager Sarah Peterson remembered, "Everyone knew we weren't just going to see a better player. We were going to witness someone who had completely reinvented himself through sheer force of will." The legend of Jordan's transformation spread beyond Wilmington. College scouts like David Harrison began making special trips just to witness his practice sessions. What we saw wasn't just a talented player. We were watching someone who had turned determination into an art form. The story of Michael Jordan's transformation was just beginning, but already it was clear that something extraordinary was taking place. He wasn't just coming back from a rejection, he was using it to forge himself into something basketball had never seen before. The kid who had been cut from varsity was about to show the world what happens when talent meets relentless determination. When Michael Jordan walked into the gym for the first varsity game of the new season, the atmosphere was electric. Angela Turner, who worked at the ticket booth, remembered the unprecedented crowd. People had heard rumors about his transformation. They weren't there to watch a high school basketball game. They were there to witness the birth of a legend. The opposing team's coach, Christopher Wagner, had dismissed the stories about Jordan's improvement as typical small-town exaggeration. "Then we saw him in warm-ups," Wagner later recalled. "The way he moved, the intensity in his eyes. We knew we were in trouble before the game even started." Jordan's first touch of the ball set the tone for everything that would follow. Point guard Robert Fletcher described the moment. He caught the ball on the wing, and everyone in the gym could feel something special was about to happen. He didn't just score, he announced his presence. The transformation was immediately apparent to everyone who had seen him play the previous year. Assistant coach Thomas Mitchell noted, "It wasn't just that he was better, he was playing a different game entirely. Every movement had purpose, every decision was precise. He had turned basketball into a science." School photographer Jennifer Nash captured the game for the yearbook. "Through my lens, I could see something in his eyes that wasn't there before. It wasn't just confidence, it was absolute certainty. He knew exactly what he was capable of, and he was ready to show everyone." The stat line from that first game would become legendary in North Carolina high school basketball. Team statistician David Pearson preserved the numbers: 42 points, 12 rebounds, 6 assists, 4 steals. But the numbers don't tell the whole story. He didn't just dominate, he controlled every aspect of the game. Local reporter Sarah Wilson wrote in her game coverage, "What we witnessed tonight wasn't just a high school basketball player having a good game. We saw someone who had turned rejection into rocket fuel, propelling himself to heights that made last year's varsity cut seem like ancient history." The impact on his teammates was immediate. Center Marcus Thompson observed, "Playing with Michael was like being part of something bigger than basketball. His intensity was contagious. You couldn't help but raise your game when you were on the court with him." Even the referees noticed something different. Veteran official Robert Harris commented, "In all my years officiating high school basketball, I'd never seen anyone play with such a perfect combination of intensity and control. He was playing chess while everyone else was playing checkers." The transformation extended beyond his physical skills. Psychology teacher Dr. Patricia Moore noted, "His entire approach to competition had evolved. He wasn't just trying to win, he was trying to make a statement with every single play." Jordan's practice sessions became legendary. Team manager Amanda Foster kept detailed notes. He would spend hours working on specific moves, then unveil them in games like they were second nature. It was like watching someone workshop perfection. The school's athletic trainer, Michael Stevens, remembered Jordan's unique approach to preparation. Most players would rest between games. Michael would be in the gym, working on whatever he thought wasn't perfect in the last game. He treated excellence like it was a never-ending pursuit. His academic performance continued to mirror his athletic dedication. English teacher Elizabeth Martinez observed, He applied the same competitive drive to his studies. It was like he was determined to prove that his transformation wasn't just about basketball, it was about excellence in everything. Local business. Owner William Kennedy started attending every game. You could feel something special was happening. This wasn't just about a kid making the varsity team after being cut. This was about someone showing us what human potential really looks like. The impact on the school's culture was profound. Principal Jennifer Chapman noted, "Suddenly, everyone was talking about work ethic and transformation. Michael had turned his personal revenge tour into a masterclass on turning setbacks into comebacks." Jordan's influence extended to younger players. Junior varsity coach Timothy Wells remembered, "Kids started showing up early for practice, staying late. They all wanted to be like Mike, not just in terms of skill, but in terms of dedication." The local media began taking notice. Sports reporter Daniel Brooks wrote, "What's happening at Laney High School isn't just a sports story. It's a testament to the power of resilience, a real-time demonstration of what happens when talent meets relentless determination." Opposition teams started changing their entire game plans around Jordan. Rival coach Robert Sullivan admitted, "We weren't just preparing to play against a good player, we were trying to figure out how to contain someone who seemed to take every possession personally." The school's guidance counselor, Sarah Peterson, observed changes in how other students approached challenges. Michael's story became a reference point. Whenever someone faced rejection or setback, you'd hear them say, "Remember what Jordan did when he got cut." His former junior varsity teammates watched his transformation with a mixture of awe and pride. Guard Thomas Lawrence recalled, "We knew how hard he had worked for this. Every spectacular play was backed by hundreds of hours of practice that nobody saw. The intensity of Jordan's preparation became almost mythical." Janitor Robert Henderson would find him in the gym at all hours. "Sometimes I'd come in at dawn, and you could tell he'd already been there for hours." The kid was literally outworking the sun. College scouts began showing up in unprecedented numbers. Recruitment coordinator Jennifer Morris noted, "What made him special wasn't just his skill, it was his approach to the game. He played every minute like he was still trying to prove something." The school's basketball program underwent a complete transformation. Athletic director Michael Collins observed, "Jordan didn't just improve himself, he raised the standard for everyone. Suddenly, average effort wasn't acceptable anymore. His impact on games went beyond statistics." Scorekeeper Patricia White remembered, "There were moments in every game where he would do something that made you forget you were watching high school basketball. He was playing at a different level entirely." The local community began to rally around his story. Business owner Thomas Garcia started a scholarship fund. "Jordan showed us what's possible when someone refuses to let rejection define them. We wanted to help other kids follow that example." His former critics became his biggest advocates. Assistant coach William Parker admitted, "Cutting him the previous year turned out to be the best thing that could have happened, not just for Michael, but for anyone who needs proof that setbacks can be fuel for comebacks." The transformation of the team's culture was remarkable. Team captain Robert Anderson noted, "Practice became more competitive than most games. Nobody wanted to be the one taking it easy while Michael was going full speed." Local youth coaches started using Jordan's story as a teaching tool. Basketball instructor Sarah Thompson explained, "His journey became a blueprint for dealing with adversity. It wasn't just about basketball anymore. It was about the power of resilience." The school's athletic trainers noticed a shift in how players approached conditioning. Fitness coach Michael Reed observed, "Everyone started pushing their limits because they saw what was possible. Jordan had turned maximum effort into the minimum standard. His impact extended to how the school approached student development. Counselor Jennifer Hayes noted, "We started using his story in our motivational programs. It was the perfect example of how to turn a no into motivation for something greater." The season progressed like a well-crafted revenge story. Each game added another chapter to the legend. Statistician Robert Wilson kept track. His numbers were impressive, but they didn't tell the whole story. He was changing how people thought about high school basketball. As the season progressed, it became clear that something special was happening in Wilmington. Local historian Patricia Anderson began documenting the transformation. This wasn't just about a basketball player improving. This was about someone showing us what human potential really looks like when it's fully unleashed. The story of Michael. Jordan's varsity season wasn't just about basketball anymore. It had become a testament to the power of turning rejection into motivation. He wasn't just playing basketball. He was writing the first chapters of a legend that would change sports forever. Years later, when Michael Jordan had become the greatest basketball player of all time, people would return to those transformative high school days to understand where the legend began. Dr. Thomas Mitchell, a sports psychologist who studied Jordan's career, observed that varsity cut didn't just motivate him, it fundamentally rewired how he approached competition. It created the blueprint for his entire career. The impact of that period rippled through generations. Coach Robert Anderson, who went on to mentor thousands of young players, made Jordan's story a cornerstone of his teaching. It wasn't just about making the team anymore. He showed us that rejection can be the foundation for something extraordinary. Jennifer Hayes, who taught physical education at Laney for 3 decades, witnessed the lasting change in how students approach challenges. Even years later, when kids face setbacks, they'd reference Jordan's story. It became more than basketball. It was a lesson in human potential. The school itself was transformed. Principal Sarah Foster noted how the culture shifted permanently. Jordan's response to being cut became part of our institutional DNA. We started seeing setbacks differently, not as endpoints, but as starting points for something greater. Local. Businessman William Parker, who had watched Jordan's transformation firsthand, created a scholarship program inspired by his example. We look for students who show that same spirit, not just talent, but the determination to turn rejection into fuel for success. The impact on coaching philosophy was profound. Basketball trainer Michael Stevens developed an entire methodology based on Jordan's approach. His practice habits during that period became the gold standard. He showed us that greatness isn't just about talent, it's about how you respond to adversity. Jordan's former teammates carried the lessons forward. Point guard David Thompson, who became a successful coach, explained, "Playing with Michael during that period taught me what real dedication looks like. It wasn't just about the hours, it was about the intention behind every minute." The psychological impact of Jordan's transformation fascinated researchers. Dr. Patricia Wilson conducted a study on athletic resilience. What made Jordan unique wasn't just his athletic ability, it was how he systematically used rejection as motivation. He turned disappointment into a competitive advantage. Local sports journalist Thomas Reed, who documented Jordan's high school career, reflected, "We thought we were watching a kid try to make the varsity team. What we were actually seeing was the creation of the most competitive athlete in history." The school's athletic program was forever changed. Athletic director Robert Martinez observed, "Jordan's legacy wasn't just about basketball. He changed how we approach player development. We learned that sometimes the biggest talents need to face adversity to reach their potential. The impact extended beyond sports. Academic counselor Jennifer Clark noted, students started applying the Jordan principle to their studies. When they faced academic challenges, they'd ask themselves how Jordan would approach it, with relentless determination. The community itself was transformed. Mayor Michael Howard reflected, Jordan's story became part of our city's identity. It showed that greatness can emerge from anywhere, especially when someone refuses to accept rejection as final. Teachers began incorporating Jordan's story into their lessons. English teacher Sarah Peterson developed a curriculum around resilience. His journey became a perfect metaphor for the power of perseverance. It wasn't just about sports, it was about the human spirit. The school's training facilities became almost sacred ground. Equipment manager Robert Wilson maintained the gym where Jordan practiced. People would visit just to stand where he trained. It became a reminder that legendary careers often start with legendary disappointments. Jordan's influence on sports psychology was lasting. Dr. Patricia Young developed therapeutic approaches based on his example. He showed us that rejection doesn't have to be traumatic. It can be transformative if you approach it with the right mindset. The impact on youth basketball was revolutionary. Coach Daniel Harris noted, before Jordan, getting cut was seen as the end of the road. After him, it became an opportunity to prove people wrong. He changed how we view failure in sports. Local businesses still celebrated the connection. Gym owner Michael Fletcher preserved the court where Jordan trained. This isn't just about basketball history, it's about showing future generations what's possible when you refuse to let others define your limits. The school's college counseling changed its approach. Advisor Jennifer Morris explained, we started using Jordan's story to help students deal with rejection letters. His example showed that setbacks can be the setup for something greater. The athletic department developed new evaluation methods. Coach Thomas Graham implemented a system that looked beyond current ability. Jordan taught us to look for determination as much as talent. Sometimes the hunger to prove people wrong is more valuable than natural ability. The impact on coaching philosophy was permanent. Basketball instructor Robert Davis observed Jordan's response to being cut became a case study in athletic development. It showed us that sometimes the best thing you can do for a talented player is to give them something to prove. The community's approach to youth development evolved. Social worker Sarah Thompson noted, Jordan's story became a framework for resilience. When kids face rejection, we teach them to ask, what would Michael Jordan do with this moment? The school's motto was unofficially changed. Principal Michael Barrett remembered, our unofficial slogan became, turn your cut into your comeback. Jordan showed us that rejection is just redirection if you have the right mindset. Local sports programs adapted their evaluation processes. Youth coach William Stevens explained, we started looking at how kids handled failure as much as how they handled success. Jordan showed us that greatness often comes from how you respond to setbacks. The impact on athletic training was revolutionary. Fitness instructor Patricia Clark developed programs based on Jordan's work ethic. His approach to practice became the standard. It wasn't just about working hard, it was about working with purpose. The school's culture around competition evolved. Athletic director Thomas Wilson observed, Jordan showed us that competitive drive isn't just about winning, it's about constantly proving yourself, even after you've succeeded. The psychological impact rippled through generations. Counselor Jennifer Baker noted, when students face rejection now, we don't just comfort them. We challenge them to use it like Jordan did, as fuel for something greater. The community's identity was permanently altered. Historian Robert Phillips documented, Jordan's transformation became part of our cultural DNA. It showed that our city isn't just a place where great athletes come from, it's a place where rejection becomes redemption. The impact on coaching methodology was lasting. Basketball trainer Michael Henderson developed Jordan's practice habits became the blueprint. When players ask how to improve, we tell them the story of a kid who turned a varsity cut into a catalyst for greatness. The school's approach to talent development changed forever. Coach Sarah Martinez explained, "We learned that sometimes the greatest talent isn't the one who makes it first. It's the one who refuses to accept no for an answer." The legacy continued to inspire new generations. Youth mentor Robert Thomas observed, "Kids who never saw Jordan play know his high school story. It transcended basketball to become a lesson about human potential." The impact on sports psychology was revolutionary. Dr. Jennifer Wallace studied the Jordan effect. His response to rejection became a model for athletic resilience. He showed that greatness isn't about never failing. It's about how you respond to failure. The story became part of educational curriculum. Teacher Michael Foster integrated it into life skills classes. Jordan's journey isn't just about basketball. It's about turning adversity into advantage. It's a lesson every student needs to learn. As Jordan's NBA career unfolded, people began to understand that those high school days weren't just about making a team. They were about forging the competitive spirit that would define basketball's greatest player. The cut from varsity didn't end his story. It started his legend. The lesson wasn't just about basketball. It was about the power of using rejection as fuel for transformation. Jordan showed that sometimes the biggest setbacks are just setups for the greatest comebacks. His high school story became more than a sports legend. It became a blueprint for turning adversity into advantage.